This episode of the Zulu Pootcast is sponsored by Zulu Inc., a benefit corporation dedicated to the goal of universal access to toilets, hygiene, clean water and sanitation through the power of social enterprise. Learn more at ZuLoo.com.
Yeah, maybe we can go back to when you first went over there in 2011, and or maybe even before that, what was the impetus? Or was it you and Melissa, or just you at the time?
Like, how did it start?
Yeah, what? I know you, and maybe share with our listeners a little bit about your background. I mean, you're an engineer, right? Yeah. And so you've got an engineering degree, and what's your day job? Remind me of that.
I am an aerospace engineer.
Aerospace, okay.
Yeah, obviously.
Very different from a Soilet.
Yeah, it's a lot of similarities, toilets and airplanes, right?
yeah. You know, maybe the reason I got doing the aerospace thing, so it could be like, oh, Soilet. Well, it's not rocket science, you know.
yeah.
Welcome to the Zulu Pootcast, where we talk all things poop, toilets, and sanitation. Through insightful news, impact stories, and quirky humor, we aim to discuss and highlight the critical role toilets play in whisking poop out of our lives, the impact toilets have, or lack thereof, in the health and wellness of humanity, and what Zulu is doing to help solve the current global sanitation crisis.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Zulu Pootcast. We are so excited to have you back listening. Super excited to be back in studio talking about the important world of sanitation. We have a very special guest with us today, Sevy. He was integral to our India 2019 trip in engineering our version of the Soilet and all that our recipients received down there, among other things. So we're excited to chat with you today, Sean. Thanks for coming on.
Yeah, glad to be on.
Yeah, we're excited to hear the gems of wisdom that you have for us and learn just a little bit more about you and your presence and joy.
As much as we love your sister, you know, we're equally honored, if not a little more so, because you really invented and paved the way back in, 2011? And
2011,
And then also in 2014?
2016.
2016.
Yeah.
And then we were able to go back in 2019, and all those people were like, oh, tell Sean hello. And
hey, that's great. When I came, they were like, where's Melissa?
Okay.
The second happy to be in her shadow.
Yeah, well, we're trying to get Melissa on the show, so we'll see. But excited to have you here.
Yeah. Well, Sean, before we jump in and learn a little bit more from you, we always do a little news minute. So we're going to pop over to Darin to see what he's got in store for us.
Yeah, usually I try to find some humorous story, but this one is not so humorous. It really ties into what we're probably going to talk about with the Soilet. But this is an Indian newspaper. I tend to get a lot of news feeds from Indian newspapers, maybe because I was over there.
Talk about it a lot.
Anyway, but I remember when we were there in 2019, the government made a big push, like, hey, we're gonna eliminate open defecation. We're gonna, everybody's getting a toilet, and so they put out, I think they're giving them like 12,000 rupees, which I don't know how much that is in US dollars, but it's like, hey, we're going to give you these 12,000 rupees to build a toilet and install a toilet.
To each family?
To each family in the whole country, like billion people, right? And it was, the prime minister, his big push was, to bring, toilets to everybody. That's what was one of his campaign promises, right? Very cool. So this is an article from the Telegraph online in India. And this is May of 2022, so pretty recent. And they did a survey saying, hey, how'd this go? How did this program work? And
crossing my fingers, it worked well, but I think
guess what the headline is? Can you guess? 100% success.
Yeah!
No, it says 1 in 5 households in India, 20%, still practice open defecation.
Wow.
And do not have access to a toilet, which you think, okay, what is 20% of, was it 1.3 billion people? Is it I think that's
in the billions, yeah.
It's about 1 billion, Yeah. So they found that the article talks about, they surveyed all these households that had been part of the program, and some of them did, in fact, build the toilet. They received the money and built a toilet, but they don't use it. They're using it for, storing firewood. They're using it for animals, using it for maybe an extra room, for their grandmother.
Not the intended purpose, right?
I've heard of that. Yeah.
So anyway, that's the article.
That's a lot. I mean, I'm no mathematician at all, but I'm thinking 20% of in the billions is still a lot of people.
It's a lot of people.
And that's a lot of money to have a government try to invest in its people to end such a problematic issue.
Right.
And I just wonder, what was the hole there? Like, what fell through the cracks? Is it education, people not understanding the importance of sanitation, of clean sanitation?
Well, Sean, maybe you could talk about that when you were in India. What kind of cultural things did you see as part of maybe a hindrance to adoption of toilet practices?
Yeah, I think the hard thing is coming in as Westerners, we have this expectation like you'll have a toilet and you'll use it. Yeah. But I've heard way too many stories about getting a toilet given to you and just being used as storage. Like I was just telling somebody about that and they said, no way. But for us, we started with the toilet in the West, and that's just a way of life. Yeah. But expecting to just project that onto a different culture is hard, especially if that's originally not part of their culture. Now, you asked what were some of the interesting things when we were building some of the first Soilets. We had it almost completed, and they said, "Oh, the door's on the wrong side." It's like, oh, we just built you a toilet, But there was a lot of, I guess there was some kind of cultural thing, almost kind of like what's the Chinese equivalent of like feng shui kind of. But they had a similar cultural thing, and
the door had to be placed a certain way.
Yeah, to be placed a certain way,
like facing a certain direction or opening.
Yeah, facing a certain direction. And I think that's why it was important that, like, if I just went in there by myself, even if I spoke the native tongue in this rural slum, right, I wouldn't be able to solve those issues. So that's when the partner organization, SAPID, and we should talk about them again. It really made a big difference because they were able to negotiate and talk coming from an insider's perspective.
Right. All those intricacies that otherwise we'd be completely oblivious to,
totally
right?
Totally oblivious. I still don't understand. But with the partner organization, SAPID, they're like, oh yeah, we understand. And they're like, oh, we're kind of on their side. We see where they're coming from. Yeah. And let's try to figure out how to do this door thing.
So with those early toilets, did you end up having to like move them, or what was the solution there? Or did you just leave them and say like, you can figure that out?
I actually forgot how we compromised, because I think we already had the door frame built. Yeah. But I think we had to be creative in how we got into it. I don't remember. Maybe it was maybe somehow they convinced them with putting a covering on one side. Somehow it worked. I wish I remembered the solution, but we came to the solution.
When you go back next, we'll ask.
How did that go?
How did that work out again?
Right.
Yeah, maybe we can go back to when you first went over there in 2011, and or maybe even before that. What was the impetus? Was it you and Melissa, or just you at the time?
Like, how did it start?
Yeah. What? I know you, and maybe share with our listeners a little bit about your background. I mean, you're an engineer, right? Yeah. And so you've got an engineering degree, and what's your day job? Remind me of that.
I am an aerospace engineer.
Aerospace, okay.
Yeah, obviously.
Very different from a Soilet.
Yeah, it's a lot of similarities, toilets and airplanes, right?
Yeah. Maybe the reason I got doing the aerospace thing so it could be like, oh, Soilet, well, it's not rocket science,
Yeah, exactly.
It's just a toilet.
That's right. It's just aerospace.
Right. But when I started, I was a student engineer.
Okay. Cool.
And I don't think I've ever told you the origin story.
Yeah.
But
that's what we want to hear.
This is in 2011. Here I was like a sophomore going to college, living at home. And I was feeling a bit restless, and maybe I'm sure this is kind of where entrepreneurship is kind of born. So I think you guys could kind of relate to this. and I got this magazine in the mail promoting a college, and I don't know why I was flipping through it. I was about to throw it away, but then I saw this quotable quote advertisement that said, "You're good, but it's not good enough to just be good. You need to be good for something. You need to make a difference in the world." And so I ripped that out. I feel like this is like Willy Wonka throwing the chocolate away and getting the golden ticket. I ripped that out, threw away the magazine, and pinned that on my wall. And I even wrote in my journal about that. I have this all documented. It was cool to look back on it. And I was feeling this restlessness, like, you know what? Why do I have to do the normal summer job this summer?
Yeah.
Within 48 hours, my sister, Melissa, called me up. She said, "Sean, I don't know, I didn't think this earlier, but we need a student engineer on one of our projects."
Oh my
The project
gosh.
is called Soilet. And I didn't even have to think about it. I'm like, okay, this is it. The door is opened. Like it's meant to be, whether it was angels or luck.
Here it is.
Here it is.
Here it is.
And
for your taking.
yeah, I didn't have, she said, think about it. But I knew before we hung up that I'm going to India.
Okay.
Very
and
cool.
building these things called Soilets.
So instead of sitting in some office over the summer, over a draftsman table, you're over in Hyderabad or wherever you went.
Yeah, that was Hyderabad. Yeah.
Okay. And so you show up, and did you regret it when you got off the plane?
Oh no! Like the whole time was fantastic.
Yeah.
Obviously, May it was the month of May, which is like the hottest time in India. And so there, of course it wasn't all magical, and there wasn't air conditioning and all these new cultural things that I had to experience. But like I had a mission.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that's
You're
all
excited
really
about
mattered.
that. Okay.
Oh yeah. In fact, I was a pretty crappy tourist while I was there. They went to, like, our American crew went to, they took a trip to Taj Mahal, but like this was like when the Soilet project was getting really good, and I was running out of weeks.
You're like, I'm gonna skip it.
I skipped it.
Okay.
You know what? I'll
Good
go
for
there
you.
someday.
You'll get there.
Taj Mahal, man.
Yeah, I'll look at the, and I was like, all the Google pics look exactly the same at Taj Mahal. But anyway, but Soilet, I was like, this is a moment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice.
Don't regret that.
That's super cool.
Well, we've needed that. I mean, just look at like all that's done, right? Maybe not that singular moment of you.
Sure. Yeah. And
deciding
I probably
not to go to
could have gone
Taj Mahal.
I know.
But
Maybe that's just I'm a fun sucker, because really it was just like I took like 3 or 4 days off, and I was there for a whole summer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But I said no.
that's
Yeah.
that's good
That's cool.
though. I mean, that's what I'm trying to say is like the recipients of our Soilets, their lives are so much better. And like, I mean, you've been back to India since then.
In 2016.
Did you visit to Taj Mahal then?
No, I didn't.
Not what I was expecting.
Oh, no.
You're
yeah.
like,
See, that was-
surely there'll never be a pandemic, and I'll always be able to go back
Yeah, that's
anytime I
right.
would want
Exactly.
to.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, now I feel a little guilty because when we went in 2019, Melissa was like, hey, we're going to go. Do you want to go a few days earlier and go see Taj Mahal? And I'm like, yeah. So we went up to go check it out. But
yeah, well, I think
Melissa's all posing, like,
Yeah.
Anyway.
And maybe she had a good experience. There's like a guy hitting on her when she went before. So anyway.
There was
so
guys.
she knew she was going to find love.
There was
No, I don't think so.
There was guys hitting on her the entire time.
She's a beautiful lady.
Beautiful lady.
Yeah.
So,
but tell us a little bit more about what made you so excited about the Soilet project.
Somebody had sent me a newscast that was talking about the problem. I didn't understand the problem. I understood that this was a great solution.
mm-hmm.
And, when you say like 1 in 5 do have or don't have access, I heard statistics like 30% had access. So maybe it has gotten better, but I don't know what we're comparing here.
Yeah, I mean, again, this is just a survey. We'll have to look at.
Yeah, the data produced by WHO and UNICEF is that the problem has gotten a little bit better, but it's mostly stayed consistent throughout the years.
I think this article was talking about this. They surveyed those who were part of the program.
Oh, right.
Which may not be the entire country. It was
their participant pool was much smaller.
And I'm familiar. That program became a bigger thing when I came back the second time.
Yeah.
The Swachh Bharat, which means clean India. Anyway, I learned about that.
Okay.
Cool.
What were we talking about? I forgot.
So I just asked you, like, what intrigued you so much or made you so passionate about the Soilet project? And you said that a friend had sent you.
Yeah. Somebody had sent me it was an Al Jazeera report on the problem.
Cool.
And it was talking about all these public health issues, and that kind of like made it real.
Yeah.
Of identifying the problem.
Mm-hmm.
And then it was just so cool that this was a solution of something people actually needed. Here I am, an engineer, and like most engineering is done to help the richest 10% of the people in the world.
Yeah.
And what about the other 90%?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
There's actually an author, Paul Pollock, that talked about the other 90%. And I think he had t-shirts, the other 90%. So that's really empowering, is that like the thought of that we could engineer things that are helping the majority. Self-driving cars, smart homes, those are all cool.
Yeah, bridges and skyscrapers, those are all helpful, but
and
let's a little more impact.
Let's not diminish bridges, though.
Yeah,
right?
they're important.
Those are important. We do need
Yeah,
those.
if you had to choose bridge or a toilet.
But anyway, just the fact that it was it's so helpful and something so needed.
Yeah. So when you got there, my understanding it was that you did some modifications to the design to kind of make it better or integrate it better with local conditions, right?
Yeah. We called it Indianizing the Soilet.
And what was that like? What was that sort of when you saw what was being done and you kind of say, hey, maybe we can make this better?
Well, so the first Soilet kind of looked like the Soilets we'd seen before. India is not the first Soilet. There's a similar project. Actually, it started
in Africa, right?
Yeah, by Africa, in Ghana by an engineer, Kweku Ano, and he actually was able to make like a venture out of this.
Wow.
And so I was even able to like call him up and ask about the design, how does it filter the waste, and all these things. And so our first Soilet kind of looked like that. It was like this square thing that was above the ground. It had some filtering that went inside, but while we were constructing that first Soilet, we saw I saw all these, we were doing all these unfamiliar construction practices, but I saw some things in the slum that I'm like, well, why can't we just use this in the Soilet? There were these concrete rings that we saw.
Okay.
And they were used for like sewer drainage. I mean, we see them here too. Yeah. For any kind of like pit you put in the cylindrical pit we put in the ground.
Right.
Like as a pit latrine is very common over there.
Yeah.
Yeah. They just fill it up and got to get a pumper truck to pump it out.
Yeah.
Or maybe let the monsoon wash it out.
Right. Yeah. And so, but these cylindrical rings were used all the time.
Okay.
Sometimes it was like water storage above ground or soakage pit below the ground. And they were manufactured in the very slum we were there. So it was cool to see that.
Yeah.
So I guess the Indianized Soilet that I kind of helped with kind of took what we'd already learned and then did this cylindrical design. Okay. Now, the cool thing just is that when I went back 5 years later, they had scrapped my design. Not to say that it was a bad design, but they made it even better with even more appropriate.
Okay.
Yeah. How so? I haven't seen these at all. I have zero frame of reference.
So,
and
the
most of our
Soilets
listeners
that you saw were the optimized one. And the reason, and I think.
Were they always earthworm driven though, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. It was always a composting toilet with earthworms breaking down the waste.
Okay. And maybe we could back up just a second and just say, hey, what is this? Because people are like, what the heck is
ask that question.
Did we misspell toilet? No, it's a Soilet. We're spelling it right. But maybe briefly go over what a Soilet is and maybe how
it works.
Maybe don't get too technical in the algebra, but just tell us maybe how it's put together. If you could go over that.
So, and I have to tell people this all the time, sometimes on first dates. Anyway, I'm still single.
Okay.
But the Soilet.
It's not successful, I guess. I'm just kidding.
We could get into that. But anyway.
You can talk directly into that camera at any time. Just to make that pitch.
The pitch.
Yes,
yeah, we will talk about Soilets.
But maybe at the very end.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Okay, Soilets are toilets that break down waste with earthworms. And it's unique because we do see composting toilets in the U.S., but they're not. But the focus of the Soilet is it's using indigenous, whether it's worms and other material, and that's why it's appropriate for underdeveloped communities.
Right. Okay. So it's got the earthworms as the engine to break down the material. As opposed to another kind of composting toilet, which would be like they're using, anaerobic bacteria or some sort of, catalyst to do that, right? Whereas this is like straight on earthworms. I actually looked down into one. I've used a couple of them. No smell. Yeah. No, it was just sort of like, you couldn't tell. You look down the hole and I didn't see any earthworms. I mean, it's at least a foot or two drop before it gets to the earthworms, right?
Well, they're just in the earth.
But I kind of expected, like a porta potty experience where you see
everything.
You see it and you're like, oh, you can't wait to get out of there. But whereas these, I was like, it's like a no big deal.
Yeah.
And it was a squat situation, so I couldn't, I had a problem there because I can't squat well. But
I got really good, but anyway.
you got to practice it.
Practice makes perfect, Darin. Yeah.
But yeah, as far as the experience was like, wow, no smell, no odor, just sort of like a very easy experience. Which was surprising to me.
And it was surprising to me because I had to believe in what past experience that really worked. I had to sell the science.
Yeah.
And then when we had the first Soilet not smell, it was like, wow, like a testimony of science. It was
success.
Yes, it was. Yeah. No, it was no longer faith. It was like, this is real. This is the real deal.
Because I did use a few of the pit latrines that you're talking about with the rings and whoa.
Oh yeah.
You're above it and it's not going anywhere. Nothing's breaking down. It's bad news, and they had a bunch of floods, as you probably know, 2020. And one of our water wells got washed away, but I can imagine some of those pit latrines just sort of just overflowing into the streets, kind of thing. But anyway, the whole earthworm system is brilliant.
Yeah.
So was there resistance? It sounds like there was maybe resistance from the community that a Soilet would work.
Well, and that's why at first was the hard part.
Yeah.
But when they started working and people saw their neighbors, well, I want one.
Yeah.
And that's where it spread. And that was great to come back 5 years later and see.
That's awesome.
But yes, there was resistance.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I think the partner organization, SAPID, had to select who the first beneficiaries were.
Yeah.
And then from there, that it spread from there.
Yeah.
But there was resistance.
Nothing like a good review via word of mouth, right? Hey, come use my toilet. It's amazing. You're going to love this experience. Not that necessarily that would happen, but definitely, right? Like, hey, I've just received this like life-changing thing. And
Laxmi's going around the neighborhood. Hey, you should come over to
party at my place,
to Mira's place and check her toilet out.
And literally.
Yeah,
but really,
absolutely. Yeah, makes sense. So you did the 2011 trip, and then you later just got the itch and went back in 2016 again.
Yeah,
kind of a similar with Melissa and all. Or no, you went by yourself.
This time I'm like, I'm going to go by myself.
You just put on a loincloth and just went by yourself.
I don't know what the loincloth's got to do.
I think Darin's trying to say you just girded up your loins.
Girded your loins. Yeah, that's what I meant to say. Sorry.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, strike that loincloth. Anyway, go. So you just decided, I think I'm going to go again.
Yeah.
And you just went?
Well, that was my graduation vacation.
All right.
Okay.
I had heard that Soilets were doing pretty good while I was it's since 2011, and so I, a lot of these people are really stressed in engineering school of like getting a job right out of college. I'm like, you know what? I'll just live at home and spend a month in India. It was 3 months the first time.
Okay.
But and so this time I wanted to see the new Soilet because they had reinvented it.
Right.
And I had $300 extra that I said, okay, well, I'm funding one. So I want, and so I took the opportunity to like take pictures so I could understand it.
Yeah.
And that, and all the innovations that had happened, trial and error, like is something I couldn't have, like the knowledge I gained was great. And I took some pictures and put it on the Soilet website.
Right. And we're going to link to your soilet.org
Sure.
website, which has been up for a while. We'll put that in the show notes. And also, at what point did you do your TED Talk? Because you've got a TED Talk out there that's on the website.
Yeah,
and also the TED Talk, which I thought was you did a great job.
Yeah.
How did that come about? Was that after the trip?
So I think I promised myself I'd never talk about dating, but there's this girl, and if you're listening, there's this girl.
Opportunity.
No.
We'll put your phone number on the screen.
No. Yeah, that was obviously it's not a thing anymore.
Yeah.
But don't bring it up. But anyway, we were like almost dating or whatever. But she's like, hey, like Salt Lake has TEDx opportunity.
Very cool.
And this is after 2016 trip.
Yeah, after the 2016 trip, maybe 2 years after.
Okay.
And she's like, I'm going to do it. And then you should enter it too, because you can actually apply for the TEDx in Salt Lake. They don't, they choose people in the community, but you can apply for it.
Cool.
So she's like, you should do that. And so I kind of came up with a way to present it, and I made it in and she didn't, and things didn't work out between us anyway. So that maybe if she would have made it in,
things would have
been.
She was jealous.
You could have shared the stage, like, hi,
yeah, exactly.
No, that's super cool. You got a lot of exposure that way too for the Soilet. Yeah,
and I think it kind of helped on my personal Soilet journey. I don't know why that came out. But as far as like really solidifying like the bigger picture.
Right.
You're getting a little closer to heaven, I think. Sounds like
a little closer to heaven.
That's good.
Yeah. The talk was entitled Indevelopment, integrating engineering with international development, where the Soilet was a great case study for that.
Okay. Got it.
Absolutely, it is. I mean, I personally haven't listened to your TED Talk yet, so I apologize for it. But it sounds like I'm very excited to go and listen to it. I love when people can find some intersection there and look at like, okay, how can we improve with growth, right, in new and innovative ways?
Right.
And that's what the Soilet has allowed the communities in Hyderabad to do, right? To use innovation to better their lives, to better their economies, and like grow.
Yeah.
So you've accomplished. I mean, I feel like this is kind of a full circle moment a little bit. I know that the circle is not completely closed.
Right.
But it is a little bit, right? Where sophomore Sean was like, I got to go be the good in the world. Yeah. And by doing stuff. And you've done a lot of good.
Oh, thanks.
How does that feel?
It feels good to be.
And now you're on the Zulu Pootcast, which is like the pinnacle of your. How many people out there wish they could be on the show? And here you are.
Right. This is it. I have arrived.
You've reached. This is heaven. Welcome to heaven.
Look at these lights.
Yeah. No,
that's great.
And the poo emojis everywhere. This is heaven.
This is heaven.
Yeah. Why don't these say Soilet? What happened?
We'll get there.
Well, that does not look like a Soilet.
Yeah, this is
we would have to
Western
have a whole different kind of squeeze toy that looks like a Soilet. Maybe we should design one.
We ought to design some of those.
Yeah, no, I would buy that.
Little squat.
Give those out on first dates. See how that goes.
Yeah.
See if that improves my chances at all. Yeah.
We should do an experiment. You hand her one of these and one of those and see, double blind study. Anyway.
Great.
No, it's super awesome. No, I think it's, honestly, without the groundwork that you laid in India with SAPIT and you and Melissa going and all of that, I mean, it really paved the way for when we first became affiliated with Melissa. She was helping us with our nonprofit organization and helping us get grants and things. And she's like, well, yeah, I think there's opportunity here for us to build toilets in India. And we're like, okay, great. And she basically explained how it works. Hey, we've got this team Sapit over there. And she kept saying, yeah, you really need my brother Sean to come along. And I don't know where you were in your career. I don't know. So for some reason you missed the trip. I don't know, but
maybe didn't have enough paid time off,
maybe not, but she kept on saying, yeah, Sean would love this. And you really need to talk to Sean. And, I think we've talked a few times, but, to have you come on the show. And, since that 2019 trip, we've funded, quite a few, rounds of funding for toilets. And now it's almost, I wouldn't say it's foolproof, but it's, we have such a good working relationship with Sapit.
Oh yeah.
That it's almost like, hey, they send us the budget and we do, through our donors and our other programs, we fund that
you can act quickly.
We fund that budget and she goes to work and executes, and it's almost like, and then, we obviously get, they send photos and videos and when we're trying to share, part of the purpose of the podcast is to share those stories, know, and, we have got our annual report that we share them with, but also we try to, on some of the episodes, we'll share the stories and how their lives were before the Soilet and after. And it's just a lot of that groundwork wouldn't be possible if you hadn't have ripped that quote out of the magazine. And had sort of a, I don't know. I don't know. I probably would have gone to Taj Mahal and, but in fact I did. So, but
it'll still be there.
It'll still be there
when I go there next.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's not going anywhere.
Yeah.
Right. So, but no, it's super awesome to have you on the show and just to go over, just get all the backstory behind it all. And, we're, obviously we're hoping to go back, things are opening up again and, we're in constant communication with Mira and Sapit and it's just lots more work to do, as this article showed. I mean, it's just like scratching the surface and not just there, but other places. I just got back from Peru and there's some projects there that I think, maybe I need to talk to you about those and see if, see if the Soilet is a good solution there. I think it may be, but yeah, so it's such a wide application, for people who need it, so.
Absolutely.
How many of you funded now?
We have, I'll have to look at the report. I think in 2019, we did over 100.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, wow.
And then since then we've done, usually we do them in batches.
I didn't know it was that much actually. So that's awesome.
2019 was sort of a big watershed moment for us because not only did we go over there, but it was a big, we just did a big push to build as many as possible. And so we did over 100 in Hyderabad, different slum areas. And then, usually when Mira sends us a budget, usually it's like, about 3 or 4 water wells. And then we also drilled the water wells at the same time.
Oh, that's so needed.
And which is super exciting. And then usually it's around, they'll say, we'll do 3 or 4 water wells and then maybe a batch of 30 to 40 Soilets. And I think we're on our 3rd round since 2019. During the pandemic, things kind of slowed down, but since then,
they've picked back up again.
They picked back up again, and it's great because we just sort of, within weeks of sending the funds, we get a full detailed report, and along with photos and videos, and we kind of thought we would have to head over there, but Mira's been great at providing a lot of that content.
It's great you established that relationship before the pandemic.
Absolutely. Yeah. So it's been great. And even during the pandemic, Mira couldn't even get into some of those areas. It was just all locked down.
Yeah.
So, so we're certainly excited to go back and, you're on the top of the list, especially now that you've arrived at the Zulu Pootcast summit.
Oh, I'm so glad to be here.
But there's higher summits to climb.
Yeah.
Right? So, but we hope to have you back, and we hope you could come along on the next.
That'd be so fun.
Next venture we go.
Yeah.
So, anyway.
So clear up your schedule. Maybe finish that grad program
I know,
quickly.
Seriously.
You might have to walk away from the job. Money.
Got to go to India again for another 3 months.
Throw caution to the wind,
Yeah.
But anyway.
Cool. Well, Sean, just like Darin said, I just want to thank you again for coming on the podcast. We hope that you'll come on again in the future. Maybe we'll chat about what you might see as the future of Soilet or other innovative sanitation technologies that, Peru or other parts of the world could use. And definitely your genius mind. We could learn from you and more from you, and our listeners could too. So thanks for joining us on the show today.
My pleasure. This is, like I said, I've arrived at the Pōōdcast headquarters. Yeah.
And if there's any single ladies out there,
you know what you're getting now.
You know what you're getting into. Yeah. So you've been warned, right?
Yeah.
He's a really good guy. Wants to do a lot of good in the world. Awesome. Well, thank you all for joining in and listening in, and we'll see you next week.
Thank you for listening to the Zulu Pootcast. Follow us on social media at our links in the show notes below. To learn more, visit our website, ZuLoo.org. If you liked the podcast, be sure to subscribe, like, and comment. For even more Zulu fun, send us an email with your toilet stories to podcast@ZuLoo.com for a chance to be featured on the podcast. This episode of the Zulu Pootcast is sponsored by Zulu Inc., a benefit corporation dedicated to the goal of universal access to toilets, hygiene, clean water and sanitation through the power of social enterprise. Learn more at ZuLoo.com.